I'm Anita Kaiser, and I'm a yoga teacher and healer and business life coach. At the moment, I live in Hamilton, Ontario, and I'm excited to begin longer term travels. So, some of the impactful moments that I experienced at the summit. Well, this was the first time I've ever done anything like this. I've been to, smaller homeschooling, unschooling, parent type conferences to help, make you a better parent or increase the way you're passing the learning down, those sorts of things. But this is the first time I've done sort of an immersive multiple day session. And every single day from the first moment, was continually amazed at the vulnerability that people brought forward. And this must have something to do with you, Lainey, to be able to hold that space, which also continued to amaze me because I didn't know you, and, you're a small woman, and there's something in you that created that place where we can all be vulnerable and open and connect in that way. And that had such a huge impact on me. Even as a yoga teacher, I see all kinds of people all the time, and they want to be open, but the difference between wanting to be and being able to be, right? It takes some time to get to that space. And that was just so amazing to me, how much vulnerability people brought. And so connecting in that way was just an incredible experience. So while I was at the conference, I did teach a few yoga classes in the morning, and my plan was to have those be family classes, but of course, you never know what's going to happen in a room. So I knew I wanted to be flexible. And what did end up happening was that more adults came. So I ran a more adult class. And each time I teach a yoga class, I feel so honored and so blessed to be able to share my learning with people in that way. And my style of teaching yoga is very much to try and pull people out of their headspace into their body. It's a slow, more feeling way of doing things, which, again, I didn't know at the time when I said I would do this, but I feel like that helped connect so well with what we were doing at the conference, because it was such a touchy-feely space rather than all this thinky stuff, right? So I'm so glad that I was able to do that and to meet people in that way. Idea of being supported and my own personal growth. It's funny, I feel very emotional just thinking about that. All my life, I've been a leader in terms of, even when I was younger, I feel like I live in a fairly vulnerable place. I'm able to be vulnerable even when the people around me aren't so comfortable with that, because I've always felt like if I can do this and they can open up even a little bit, I've always felt that this is a better way for the world to be. So, I remember often being very emotional, and I know that was, a little weird for some people sometimes, but I always felt that was part of what I was supposed to do. So even having that now, as, I'm 45 and I've lived and experienced lots of different things, but being at the summit, I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I was surrounded by people who were also doing this in a larger way. And I also felt like, oh my God, I'm not leading it anymore. There are people who are further out on that ledge than me. This is so exciting. And of course, it's not that I thought I was the only one, but in my experience, I just hadn't encountered a larger group where people were out there further than me and able to pull me and lead me, which was that piece just felt so incredible. And just to, I think I just walked away feeling like I can be more me. I don't have to constantly try and pull it back. So that was really just amazing for me. I think the learning that I did at the conference and what's been sort of a take home for me, the way I'm bringing that into my everyday life, I'm trying to be a much more relaxed parent. I know, I mean, I've been trying this for a long time, but I know I have, I come from a German background. Things are in order, right? And when they're not in order, that's not okay. And I've spent a long time trying to let go of some of that, right? And my daughter definitely, she doesn't have that same sense of order. She came in with, and by that I mean came into this planet with the mission, I think, to lighten me up. Both my husband and I were quite serious people. So I've definitely released some of those expectations and that rein on, learning has to happen like this. I've realized that I want to honor her individuality much more. And I've also, in my own teachings now, I'm letting more of myself come through, because I realize that that is the best way to serve the community around me. All right, so each presentation that I went to was amazing. I really enjoyed every single one. And as I scroll through each one in my head, I can come up with a highlight under every scenario. But definitely, so on the more practical level, one of the things from a few of the presentations, I really realized how beneficial it would be to travel with another family, to have, because we're an only child, we're a single child family, and to have that community and that connection for me to talk to, I can talk to my partner, but to have somebody else as well and just have a little bit of a different dynamic. That was a big highlight for me. I think the packing session, the brief packing session, that there was definitely some serious benefit to that and a real highlight, because packing is something that stresses me out totally. So having, just having Stephanie go through that and, quick summary was really beneficial for me. And then on the other side of that, in the more touchy-feely way, George's session on the intuition and just really honoring your own inner knowing was super, super valuable. I really love that. And I really saw how my group enjoyed that and the transformation that created for them. And then also the session that you did where we all talked about our fear and just realizing we're all carrying the same stuff. We're all afraid of the same things. And this was one of the things I brought forward into my teaching, when I got back. Every person we talk to has at least 5 of the same fears, at least 5, and if you can honor that when you're getting into a heated scenario, or at least take a step back and feel that they're afraid of the same things, that is going to change the world. And that's what I want to bring, and that was a really big thing for me. So going to this summit, I had no idea what to expect, none at all, because I'd never done anything like this. I didn't know what kind of container we were going to be in or how this was going to be working for us. And every moment of every day blew me away. And, I know it's me being interviewed here, but I know my husband was blown away too. And that says a lot because he's much more skeptical than I am. So, we continued to talk, but we're still, now we're planning how we're going to travel, but, we talked about just the experiences at the summit for a week or 2 weeks afterwards, which has never happened before. So it's a really big deal. For me, the big thing with community that was created at the summit is part of the connections that I made, the actual physical connections of people that I plan on seeing again, right? And of course, with the internet right now, we're all connected on Facebook. So even though I may not talk to those people every day or even, for a month or so, I know that when I'm moving in that direction, I can reach out to those people and connect and say, where are you? What are you doing now? What's happening? And I'm in this area. Would you be interested in connecting? And that's really exciting for me. And the group that you're running on Facebook too, the amount of people in there and that connection, I feel like I could reach out to any of them and maybe they'd say no, but that's okay. I'd like to, I feel good that it's open to, talking to those people, which is exciting. Before the summit, I didn't even really know what it meant. I sort of had this idea, but, I didn't think it could incorporate slow travel. I didn't think that I could make this work in a way, whatever suits me, right? I thought there were rules. And now I know clearly, whatever is going to work for me is the way to incorporate this, whatever is going to work for my family. And it just, again, world schooling, it means so many different things, and I think that opportunity to just live within my own rules, to create my own rules. This is how I want to move forward. And this is what I think was such a huge takeaway. And clearly I was ready to hear something like that, right? I think if I even for a minute thought the rules of society were the correct rules, I may not have come to this place, right? But I already knew that there was something very broken over there. So, this is the light. The first session that we went to was Paul Cortman, and they run a podcast, the Nomad Together podcast. And for whatever reason, podcasting has, listening to podcasts has just not been on my radar. I think I got to a point where there was just too much information. I couldn't absorb anything else. But since then, I've been listening to his podcast, and that was really, he talked a lot about business and some different ideas. And, as a business coach, I've thought a lot about business. I've been in my own business for a long time. We've run a retail store. We've done all kinds of different things. And he gave me some new ideas. So that was really exciting. Just to have some different ways of approaching things. And because Paul's a little bit techie, or maybe Paul's a lot techie, my husband's a techie guy too. And so I think he really enjoyed that as well. Moreau's session was so beautiful, just getting that imagery behind all the different learning, right? And all the different experiences and how to, for lack of better, to label those, right? And draw that connection. That was really exciting for me because I hadn't quite figured out how I was going to do that. So being able to see all these experiences and the labels with it, that was very exciting. Like each session was so amazing for me. Alice's session, where she went through all the different experiences they've had, how she did this, that real sense of community she needed and cultivated. Like they were all so amazing to me, each individual one. And, George's session with the intuition and how deeply, and that session for me in particular just reaffirmed so much of my own inner knowing. That was exciting. The session that you managed, with the fears, Joan's experiences, just hearing about the different experiences just allowed that door to open a little bit more. So they were all so worthwhile and amazing.
I was wondering if you could reflect a little bit on the concept of going into a summit or a conference and not knowing what the sessions were going to be because they weren't announced, and knowing that all of the sessions came from within the community. I mean, like, we did all the behind the scenes organization and working, as you know, with the people that had something to offer, but knowing that you're paying for a conference and you're not, quote unquote, guaranteed, keynote speakers. Like, what did that feel like, and how did the experience then meet the fears or the expectations or the lack of expectations? If you could just talk about that process a little bit, because it's really different than any other conference.
Yeah, of course. So that was, knowing we were going to the conference, the summit, and not having a schedule initially, there's a sense of unease that comes with that, right? But me as a personality, I tend to trust that people are always bringing me their highest good until they show me they're not. So I just assumed whatever it is, it's going to be great, and I'll just roll with it. And that goes back to what I said earlier, trying to live a little bit more relaxed life. And in this instance, I was able to do that. And so when I first got to the program, we went through it and decided what we were going to go to. And I actually didn't even realize until you said it, I think in one of the first sessions, that everything was coming from the community. And that actually makes it so much more valuable for me. I felt like that's so much better because, and especially, as I think about this, some of the keynote speakers that you see at conferences, and maybe not so much unschooling, but just so often they're people that you can't really relate to and can't really connect to. And yeah, maybe they had some struggles, of course, but now they're so far down that line that it's not reality anymore. And this was real people talking about real things. And, there wasn't that sense of separation. It was just, we're all working this together, and you're sharing your ideas, and this is how you did it, and this is what, might work for you. And I love that. I say this, but I feel like, the conference was so reasonably priced too, right? Like, if it had been awful, it wouldn't have been such a big deal because it wasn't such a huge expense. I was still in Mexico enjoying this amazing place, but it was incredible and life-changing. So I would have paid 3 times as much. The big things that I saw at the summit was, you don't have to already be living this lifestyle. You don't have to already be traveling. You could even still have your kids in the system and just know that the system isn't quite right for you. Going out and meeting this community and being in an environment where you're holding the space, Lainey, I think that there is huge benefit to every single person that walks through the door. And whether you decide at the end that world schooling is the way you want to live your life, or you decide you want to stay where you are, just getting clearer on what your intention is for living the life you want, that's an amazing thing to happen. And I don't think anybody could come to this conference and not feel strongly by the end of it. Whatever your feeling is, you're going to feel something strongly.